Hello everybody, it is your Professor, Rocco your boy, coming at you once again with another Age of Sigmar video. In this AoS general class, we're going to go over 3 core concepts to me that are going to help you win more games in 3rd edition of Age of Sigmar. Number 1, and this is going to be just a me talking to you, the student, me the teacher. No slideshows, we're going to get a little intimate here, a little old school talking. And a little bit of like and subscribe if you haven't already for this content. Yeah, I slid that in there early. Yeah, I'm doing it, dang it. We got enough people watching now. Let's pump those numbers up of views and subs and likes. And I'm probably going to get a bunch of dislikes for this, but it's okay. YouTube chilling. There we go. I'm chilling for myself. Number 1 on these tips here. Unleash Hell. If you are a melee army going into a shooting army, in your own list building, you need to figure out before any dice are being rolled, how are you going to deal with Unleash Hell? Alright? Now here's the scenario. The best Lumineth Realmlords player shows up across the table from you at a tournament. They brought 80 Sentinels. It's techless, 2 units of 10 Wardens, and then like 80 Sentinels, because they're jerks. And they want to, not use the rest of their battle tome. What do? If I'm my Stormcast army, I have an idea until a new book comes out and ruins it. But currently, for me, I'm looking for units actually like prosecutors. The little angel dudes with the horrible to put together wings that break every time you pack them and move them away. Everyone's touched Stormcast. They have an idea what a prosecutor is. I'm looking for something that's cheap, generally under 100 points. I'm looking for something that's able to fly. I'm looking for something that's disposable, that when in my charge phase, I can make a relatively easy charge, get within 3 inches of a unit that would be doing the Unleash Hell. So they have to shoot up my cheap unit instead of my nice offensive hammer that's like 400 some odd points of fulminators or a dragon or maybe the new baby dragon riders. I don't know. I haven't seen a war scroll yet at the time of this recording, but maybe they're cool. They're already really cool. Maybe they have good rules too. I don't know, but I don't want them dying to bowfire. So, our tip here is if you are a melee army, find a way to build around Unleash Hell. This could be if your army is -1 to be shot at with shooting weapons, right? It's not the shooting phase, because this happens in the charge phase. We're looking for stuff that happens with shooting weapons, ranged weapons, whatever the actual terminology is here. You find the tech in your list to deal with that, all right? I'm thinking like there's even sometimes abilities or effects that make people reroll 6s to hit with shooting weapons. Now would be a great time for that, because not only would you get the whole, I'm -1 to hit anyway from Unleash Hell. Now I'm just trying to fish for my mortal wounds. Well, if your mortal wounds are on 6 to hit, I get a little bit of a reprieve, which is nice. Find that tech. Find a way. You're going into this knowing you're bringing a melee army. Find a way to go about it. Maybe it's you bring multiple units of, let's say if you're Iron Jaws, multiple units of Gorgrunts, so that, they only get to Unleash Hell once. So you send them in to the Sentinels. I'm sure someone's going to be like, but Iliatha. But, again, one fringe case. Or my own cities of Sigmar, there's multiple ways to do it. But again, ignoring the 0.0001% of cases, your average opponent is going to be able to Unleash Hell once per charge phase. So let's say you bring 3 units of Gorgrunts. You send one in. It was already kind of hurt. It already lost a couple models. That pig's going to eat that Unleash Hell for you. Great. And then the other 2 units of Gorgrunts can go in and be fine. Plan for that. And on the flip side, if you're the shooting army, try to plan for some Unleash Hell. This goes into tip 2 here with using Redeploy well. So, Redeploy is a command that happens in the movement phase in response to an opposing unit moving within 9 inches of yours. So then you move D6 inches, right? There's some argument whether it's supposed to be just away, whether it's just a d6-inch move. But let's put that argument aside for a second. Because in this plan, we're moving backwards. Now let's say I have a nice screen of Phoenix Guard for my Cities of Sigmar units. They're about 10, 11 inches out. What I'm trying to do through smart movement and unit placement and honestly deployment is bait my opponent to move closer to my shooting. So I can set up to unleash hells later, or at least make them have to consider, oh, do I really want to charge that? Do I need to charge that? But this is twofold because the city I play in Cities of Sigmar is a living city. So not only am I trying to get my opponent to come closer to me, I'm trying to get them actually closer to the board edge where my deep striking stuff will come out on my turn. So I'm trying to use this redeploy to do more than just make their charge harder. I'm using it to try to set up an Unleash Hell, to try to make it easier for me to pop out of the of deep striking from a table edge and do my shoot and then move at the end of the shooting phase thing. Unleash Hell is great, but honestly, this redeploy here that everyone's sleeping on, I don't even know if I used the right name for it in this, but that is just how good that redeployment is, and no one is sleeping on it. No, everyone's sleeping on it. What am I saying? Words are hard. All right. Actually, you know what? In the comments section, tell me what this is your homework. You thought I did this on purpose. I couldn't have planned this better. In the comments, tell me what the name of this redeploy rule is that happens in the movement phase. Let's get some people typing at me. Yeah, that's a horrible thing. The YouTuber said, "Hey, I want to go check my comment section." Number 3 here is denying movement. Now, because I've talked about, using the new charge reaction and Unleash Hell. I've talked about utilizing our movement. And I've talked about, using movement to deny Unleash Hells. What if we just deny your opponent how to move? All right? Now, hear me out. Follow me, camera guy. All right? So, I like building my armies with cheap, disposable units that can fly. The reason being is they can go over terrain, which is becoming more popular in Age of Sigmar 3 because in the General's Handbook, they recommend you have about 8 pieces of scenery minimum. Alright? Now, there's going to be arguments of people saying, well, I like my fantasy as if it was rank and flank. I like fighting in an open field, and some people like playing in a huge cityscape that you wouldn't even see a 40k kill team game in. But eventually there's going to be a happy medium as 3rd edition, shakes out a little bit. And being able to have, terrain that's impassable where people have to walk around one way or another. Sometimes you're going to get that, sometimes you don't. I like playing with some terrain features like that. But if I don't, I like having these cheap little flying units. Like in Sublight Gravelords, I love Fellbats. It's 75 points for 3 models in a unit. They retreat and charge. Pretty sure they're summonable too, so you could actually bring them back from the dead. You can do the vampire regen on them. The thing is, though, I like using Fellbats to body block people. Whether it's there's an alleyway or a choke point on the board where I can, say, fly over my opponent's units because I can fly and I can do that, or fly around them over the terrain, so that my opponents have to go through a screen of Fellbats of mine before they can go and help out their unit that now I have cut off and made out of position. That way, myself as the melee army can focus fire all of my efforts, all of my Blood Knights, all of my Dire Wolves, whatever it ends up being, Graveguard with great weapons too are good, onto the units that are now out of position. And because I'm stopping my opponent from moving, I don't have to worry about, half of their army coming up to help them. They have to waste their time on Fellbats that I'm just going to bring back anyway. And I get to go and chomp off 300-400 points of stuff. And that is how, just by denying my opponent movement, I can trade 75 points of Fellbats for 300 to 400 points of their army. There's other ways to do this. You don't need to have flying units going in. Part of this could be maybe your opponent does have all the flying stuff and you don't. And You're like, wow, they watched Rocco's thing on disrupting stuff and denying space and movement with flying Fellbats. What if I just don't give the Fellbats a place to land? You know, in first and second edition of Age of Sigmar, Seraphon used to have a battalion that allowed Ripperdactyls to deploy outside of 3 inches of your stuff and then move again. Old battalion, not even a thought in anyone's mind anymore. But this used to be a thing to deal with Seraphon, where they had this game-breaking ability, and you're like, well, you know, I'm just going to make sure that there's 5 inches between all my units, because they have to stay outside of 3 of my stuff, even if they're flying. So there's just physically no place for them to land. I'm going to deploy in a way that they can't jump over screens when they charge, because their bases can't end on top of my bases of my actual models. So I'm going to stop them from ever having a spot. They can't make any plays. This is just we castle it up. And in this case, castling normally is, you know, you've got all your buffs going off from 1 or 2 heroes to affect as many units of yours as possible. But this is also just bunching up to the point where they can't land on you. You know, you take a strong defensive position and you make your opponent not be able to hit your good units because they're protected by layers of screens and cheap units that you can throw away to just body block. You know, that Maw Crusher is great. It's you know, you gave it like +5 damage between mount traits, buffs, spells, whatever. But if I'm going to deny you the ability to land near my general to kill it, and I'm just going to give you 3 Fellbats to kill, I don't care, because that was your turn. Now I get my turn. I'm just going to move away. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to class. And as I like to say at the end of all of our videos, class dismissed.